language-based magazines of Bangladesh. The magazine aims to analyze, interpret, and disseminate news of local as well as global financial, commercial, and industrial developments to its readers. ICE Business Times is a concern of ICE Media Limited. Marketing Futures, co-founded by Dave McCaughan, Fayaz Ahmed, is all about shaping marketing success for Bangladesh businesses by bringing global best practice to the market through workshops, seminars that provide real experiences, real exercises, real advice from globally experienced practitioners. Marketing Future focuses not on just speeches but also on interaction, real participation, real learning. ICE Business Times, together with Marketing Futures, came up with this idea to share knowledge among students of Bangladesh, and for the very first time, they started this program with the Association of University of Liberal Arts Bangladesh. They hope to continue together in the future. To open the proceedings, I would like to request Honorable Professor Imran Rahman, Special Advisor to the Board of Trustees and Dean of Ulab, School of Business, to give a opening speech.
Thank you very much, and a warm, or should I say cold winter. Is it just me? I'm feeling cold. But welcome everybody, particularly our guests from Marketing Futures and ICE Business Times. Dear students, you're in for a treat because you will be listening to Mr. Dave McCaughan, who's the Chief Strategy Officer with AI.agency and co-founder of Marketing Futures. We also have the Bangladeshi co-founders with us today as well, and I'm expecting my good friend Iftikhar to join us. But the reason I say you're in for a treat is because, you know, Dave, I was just speaking to him, and he's not an academic. Okay, so he's actually somebody who's learned marketing and branding from his diverse years as a practitioner in some of the world's big companies like McCaughan, in countries such as Japan, you know, Thailand, and several other Asian countries, China, and of course Australia, where he is originally from. So this is something that you need to understand, that, you know, the learning doesn't just come from a textbook, right? I'm increasingly aware that particularly in business, textbook is just one of the resources which is important. But listening to somebody who has actually been a branding and marketing professional is far more relevant and far more important. Okay, so I hope all of you will take the chance of, you know, make the most of his visit and ask him questions. I'm sure there'll be a question answer session, and feel free to ask in Bangla. I'm sure somebody will translate it for Dave. But you know, the Ulab School of Business is, you know, very much aware that business is a practical subject, and it's apart other than doing the courses, taking exams, quizzes, blah blah blah. You also will be expected and will help you pick up actual skills, things that you can do. That's something very important, because at the end of the day, you know, whether you're starting your own business or whether you're working for somebody, they will hire you not simply because you've got a 3.95 GPA, but what you have picked up along the way. What can you do, right? And your creativity, your way thinking out of the box, your communication skills, your, you know, curiosity, your independence, and all of these things. So I'd like to thank ICE Business Times for bringing this interesting program to us, and I'm sure this is the first of many kind of collaborations that we will do. I should add that for a year I used to edit another business magazine called Business Bangladesh, which no longer exists. It folded, perhaps because of my poor editing. But I do remember how difficult it is to run a magazine, let alone a business magazine in Bangladesh. So I must commend ICE Business Times and its founders, of course, Abul Khair Litu and others, for keeping it going, and it's improving day by day. And very soon, I'm sure it'll be regionally acknowledged as a very good quality business magazine. So thank you very much and welcome, Dave. Welcome to Ulab. I hope this won't be the first and last visit of yours to work. So enjoy the talk. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Imran Rahman, for your kind speech. Moving forward with today's main event, I would like to invite today's guest speaker, Mr. Dave McCaughan, Chief Strategy Officer, AI Agency Co-Founder, Marketing Futures, here at the stage to begin the session.
Hi, my name's Dave. If we can get the screen down, yes. Let's start off with a little exercise. Can everybody in the room stand up? Okay, now listen carefully, and for those of you that don't understand the Australian accent, ask somebody next to you what I'm talking about. Okay, put your hand up if you're somebody who, first of all, would describe yourself as always wanting to welcome other new ideas. Do you welcome new ideas? Okay. Now, put your hand up if you're somebody that would describe themselves as wanting to be special. Now, can all the people that said they want to be special go to that side? And all the people that said they want to welcome others go to that side? Can you move chairs? There you go, move. That's it. Oh, look, it's too crowded over there and too empty over here. So you can still, some of you can move back this side. That's okay. All right, so if you sit down, thank you. All right, the reason why I asked that for you to do that is because I want to make two opening points. The first thing is that in my experience, when we're asked, are you somebody that wants to be kind to everybody else? Most people say yes. But when you ask people, do you want to be something special? Oh, yeah. Now, can you be both? Of course, a lot of people can be both. But at some point in your life, in your careers, you have to make a decision. Is it about me being special, or is it about me helping these guys? And sometimes, if I'm going to help these guys, it means I'm going to have to give up something. And sometimes, to help other people more, I can't be that special. This is called personality, right? And as you grow up and as we develop, we all develop our own personal view of life and our little philosophy of life. And we create an image of what we want to be and who we want to be. What's that called? Deciding who we want to be, how we want to be, how we want people to see us. What is that called? Somebody going to tell me? Some of these smart people up the front want to tell me? Nobody's got the idea. That's called, what's it called? Huh? Ambition, maybe, but that's part of the personality, right? But what's the whole process you go through in deciding this is my personality, this is the type of person I want to be, here's my objectives, this is the way I want people to see me. What's that called? An aim in life, maybe, but how do you project that aim? It's called branding. It's branding yourself. For example, look around the room. Can anybody see in the room somebody that's dressed exactly the same as you are? As I look around the room, I don't know how many people in the room, about 100 or so, right? And I see 100 people dressed differently. No two people the same. Why is that? Because you've branded yourself differently. Right? Your decision to wear a grey shirt or a black shirt is branding. Why am I dressed like this? Right? Yeah, but why am I dressed like this? So, for example, there's nobody else in the room my age. Okay, so I'm the oldest guy in the room. Now, you probably think if a guy is 60 years old, where's his business suit, right? Why am I dressed like this? Because I want to present myself like what? Thank you. Right? If I came here dressed in a dark business suit with a white shirt and a tie, I would look older, right? And I would feel older. I would feel older. Now, obviously, I've got a lot of white hair. It's actually natural. I don't dye it this colour, okay? But sometimes we do strange things for our brand, our image. How many of you are 23 years old? Is anybody 23? Yeah? So, there you go, two gentlemen here, they're 23. Can you both stand up for a minute? What have they got on their faces? What? Glasses, right? Now, can I ask you, can I borrow your glasses for a minute? Your spectacles? Thank you very much. Oh, wow, you're blind, man. So they're real spectacles. So when I was 23, thanks guys. When I was 23, I actually looked about 16. I looked really young for my age. So I went out and bought a pair of spectacles with plain glass in them. I didn't need spectacles. I just bought a pair and put plain glass in them, and I wore them everywhere. Why did I do that? To make me look older and more intelligent. Okay? Okay? Now I need glasses all the time, and I'll probably fall over you while I'm talking, because I don't wear them, because I figure if I take my glasses off, it makes me look younger. Actually, you're all saying, no, you just look old anyway. Right? But that's branding. It's all about the decision of what we want to do to present ourselves, how we want other people to think about us. Not just how we want them to look at us, but how we want them to think about us. It's the way we choose the words we say. It's the way we choose the subjects we study. It's the way we actually choose the friends we hang out with and the friends we might have, but we don't let anybody else know that. Right? All of our choices are about making a decision on what brand we want to project. Am I going to be the super intellectual or the funny guy? Am I going to be the really hot, sexy guy, or am I going to be the really practical lady? What is your branding, right? So I'm going to talk to you a bit about, whoops, sorry, lost my little gizmo here. Just play amongst yourselves while I fix this up. There you go. Is that good? Yeah. Okay. I think it feels good. All right. I always love it when somebody's playing with my head. So in a normal day, how many brands do you encounter? How many brands do you come across in a normal day? You get up in the morning, you get dressed, whatever, you come to the university, you play around with your friends, you pretend you go to classes, you pretend you're studying, then you hang out with your friends some more, and then you go home, and then eventually you go to sleep. So in a normal day, how many brands do you interact with? What? At least 10. Come on. I do not know the number for Dhaka, okay? But I do know that in Bangkok, where I live, one study that was done 2 years ago suggested that a typical person in Bangkok sees 17,000 brands every day. Now, I guarantee you, if we went down and stood on the street outside this building, I guarantee you I could show you 1,000 brands by pointing at them. I don't mean people, I mean actual brands, right? Because of the signage, the different advertising pieces, etc. that you see, the packaging, etc., etc. The problem is that in today's world, how do you stand out so that if you're seeing 17,000 brands and they're advertising and they're packaging every day, how am I going to get you to notice my one? How am I going to get you to pay attention to the one I'm trying to promote? To do that, we have to make sure that something about that brand sticks. And to do that, we have to make sure that we're doing branding and brand messaging and brand communication in the right way. So you heard that one of the things I do is work with these fine young guys down the front. We have this little organisation here in Bangladesh where we're trying to help marketers figure out what's the future of branding. That involves us doing all sorts of seminars and talks and things, and mostly it involves me getting up on stage or standing in front of audiences doing crazy things. That's what I'm going to do today, is some crazy things with you. So, a little background. I have lived in Bangkok, Hong Kong, Shanghai, Tokyo. I come from Sydney. I now live back in Bangkok again. I lived in Italy for a while. But my job, primarily for about the last 30 years, was to help big American and European companies understand Asia, understand people across Asia, what makes them work, what makes them don't work, what makes them tick, what makes them think, what makes them love, and what makes them hate. And then figure out how brands can take advantage of that. And what I want to do today is just take you through a few lessons about things you can and cannot do. Sometimes when I'm giving speeches like this at conferences in different countries, I will actually get on stage and take my trousers off. Why would I do that? Why would I stand? This was in Spain a couple of years ago. It was 1,000 people in the audience. It was the most important retail conference in Europe. And I stood on stage in front of the chairman of some of Europe's biggest companies and took my trousers off. Why would I do that? Well, it's true that actually, I've done this maybe 30, 40 times in different audiences and different conferences around the world. And actually what happened was about 5 years ago, I did it once in Melbourne. And at the end of the conference, a lady came up to me and said, "I really enjoyed your talk. Can I sponsor you?" What? And it turned out that she was the marketing director for a company that made men's underpants. And guess what? I don't buy my own men's underpants anymore. They send me some from Melbourne every 6 months. If you're going to take your pants off, please wear our underpants. But I'm not going to take it off today. But why did I do that? Why would I stand on stage in front of all these senior executives? Yeah, because I'm an attention seeker. But really, why did I do it? because I wanted to stand out. This was at a 3-day conference. There was something like 25 speakers over 3 days. So I wanted to make sure that everybody in the audience remembered me. And I guarantee you, if you're standing in front of a big audience and you take your trousers off, guys, people remember you. Okay? It's a shortcut. But it's also part of the branding. I'm the guy that stands up in front of audiences and talks about strange, wacky subjects and does wacky things to get attention. How many of you have one of these? How many of you have a mobile phone? Can you hold it up? Okay. Right, good. Do you know what fubbing means? Do you know what this word means? At the moment, nobody's doing it. Oh yeah, there was one guy up there that's just put his head up. He was doing it, I think. You know. What's fubbing? Let's hope this works. And we can get this to...
It seems that since the arrival of the smartphone in 2007, we've seen the arrival of a new problem, a uniquely 21st century problem. While the world has gotten a lot more connected, people have become more disconnected, losing the art of conversation and real human interaction. The problem? Ignoring the person in front of you in favor of your smartphone. Just about everyone does it. But if this behavior has become such a big issue, why weren't we talking about it? Well, probably because there wasn't a word for it until now.
I don't know if you know what fubbing is.
That fubbing is fubbing, a term you may not have heard of. Fubbing.
Almost varying degrees of fubbing.
You've just been fubbed.
Okay, stop. Take a step back. Where do words like this even come from? Where did this one come from? Well, on an otherwise unremarkable day in May 2012, a group of people gathered at the University of Sydney, Australia. Amongst the group was a lexicologist, a phonetician, a debating champion, a poet, several authors, and a cruciverbalist. That's a professional crossword maker. Their mission was to create a word that would get people to put their phones down and get talking to each other again. And so, with a room full of brilliant minds, the search for a word to describe ignoring others in favour of your phone began.
Nubbing, foffing, frolling, igging, exing,
Anothering,
bitting,
telly-snub, and then fubbing. And he's a fubber, and would you stop fubbing me?
The word was released into the wild the following day, seeded into social conversations, and championed by a new movement known simply as Stop Fubbing. From its country of origin it spread, first through the English-speaking world, then Brazil, and right through South and Central America. Europe was next, followed by Southeast and Central Asia. Within a year, over 180 countries were using it.
Fubbing, the war against antisocial phone use.
Why the Stop Fubbing campaign is going viral.
Fubbing can be fatal.
Are you a fubber?
The backlash against fubbing.
Ignoring the person in front of you in favour of your phone was now a behaviour with a name, and a behaviour being questioned right around the globe, all because of a single word. A single word born in a university hall at the bottom of the world. Language is always changing. Update your dictionary.
So here's the point. In today's world, sorry, I've just got to get rid of this. In today's world, who buys a dictionary? Who buys dictionaries? Nobody, right? If you've got a problem, you don't understand a word. Oh, sorry, that wasn't supposed to happen. Calm down. If you've got a problem today in today's world, what do? You go and look it up on this thing, right? So fubbing was invented by some people trying to sell a dictionary by getting people to put down their phone and think about a word that was all about ignoring people with their phones. Now, the reason I bring this up is because just like this gentleman down the front here is looking up fubbing on his phone, right, to see if it's real, you can't see, it's pretty obvious now that everybody that does this I'm going to notice, right? But actually, I don't mind. I don't care. Please keep your phones out. And if I get boring, that's okay. You can go on your phone, Google my name, and watch the videos of my other speeches instead. Okay? If I'm boring now. It's all right. But it's a clever idea, right? I mean, if you think about it, nobody buys dictionaries, so how do we get people to pay attention to dictionaries? Well, we create some new words and then they go and try to look it up. That's not bad. What is it telling us about the brand? What did that exercise of creating the word fubbing tell us about the brand? The Macquarie Dictionary is the brand. What was it trying to tell us about that brand? Sorry? They're up to date. They're trying to stay up to date with the modern world. They're not boring. People think dictionaries are old-fashioned things. So you use different messages in branding to try and create an image. Sometimes it's to say, hey, I'm sexier than you think. Some days it's to say I'm more serious than you think. But how do brands make that decision, or the people in charge of brands make that decision? Well, branding, advertising, etc. is actually, in some ways, very simple. It's based around emotion. So let me ask you a simple question. What's the difference between a product and a brand? What's the difference between a product and a brand? That's great. Did you read that out of a textbook or just... No, it's great, man. It's great. Products are things we make. Products are things we might use, okay? Cola is a product. But if it's Pepsi Cola or Coca-Cola, it's not a product. It's a brand. It's a brand not just because it's got a name. It's a brand because somebody has put in a lot of thought into different colours, different names, different positionings, what the brand stands for. And most importantly, it's different because of what emotion it's trying to reach. Exactly the same product. 98% of the world's population cannot tell the difference when they're asked to taste, but they are very different in perception because of positioning. And the positioning comes from understanding which emotion that you want to tap. Because brands ultimately are about emotion. They're not about the product. Now, I'm sure that if we sat down and had a discussion about this, every one of you could name a brand that is actually, the product's okay, but I love the brand. Think about that. In so many categories, all the products are basically the same, but we like one brand better than another. And why? Because we'll try to rationalise it, but actually we almost can never actually give a rational answer. But that doesn't matter because we're not rational beings. Is there anybody in this room that thinks they are rational? Does anybody in the room think they are rational? Not one person. I think that's the first time I ever asked that question and everybody kept their hand down. If you were rational human beings living here in Dhaka today, what should you be wearing? If we were all rational human beings, what clothing should we be wearing? If you were rational human beings, what clothing should we be wearing today living in Dhaka? Huh? Underwear only. Well, here's an example. The reason it's called underwear is it's there to protect your outerwear. So you wouldn't be wearing underwear only because you've got no outerwear. If you're rational, you would be wearing nothing. What temperature is it outside? Why do we have air conditioning on in here? Because it's too hot to sit here with our clothes on if we don't have the air conditioning. If we were rational human beings, none of us living in this part of the world at this time of the year would be wearing clothes at all. We don't wear clothing for rational reasons. We don't make our clothing choices for rational reasons. Most of the clothing, this good-looking young guy, just stand up for a sec. This good-looking guy, jeans, shoes, nice shirt, none of that's a rational decision. It's based on emotions. The emotion he wants to provoke in other people. Right? Your choice of flip-flops versus shoes versus sandals is actually an emotional decision most of the time. Thank you. So I'm going to explore with you how we get to some of these emotional decisions about brands. Now, it's very small. Can anybody read what brand that is? This is an ad, an advertisement, right? Can you read what brand that is? Benetton, right? Now, Benetton has been making ads like this for 20 years. In the late 1990s, when they launched this campaign, they became very famous very, very quickly for doing this, continuously doing ads, which basically are doing what? When you see that, so obviously that's ex-President Obama, and that's the ex-president of Venezuela, whose name I've forgotten, Chavez, right? Who hated each other, their countries hated each other, but Benetton put them together kissing each other. Why did they do that? They did it because their strategy was to present their brand as being about love one another. Their brand was all about colour, the colours of the rainbow, and about bringing all of mankind together, no matter what colour, belief you were. It's clothing, right? Who cares? But they became very successful because of that positioning. Heineken beer. Who's this guy? Yeah, Daniel Craig might be his real name. Who is he really? He's James Bond, right? In most people's heads, that's James Bond, right? What does James Bond symbolise? No? It's a brand, yeah, but what does he symbolise? He symbolises what? Strong, quality, indulgence, sophistication, sexy. I know some of the guys are going, no, not really, but a lot of the girls are probably going, yeah, pretty good. Better than the old white guy, a white-haired guy up talking to us. But, he represents a whole lot of things, right? So brands quite often put their product next to somebody, and why do they do that? They put them next to somebody to borrow the emotions that are generated by that person. If you're a beer and you want to be seen as the sort of sophisticated international choice of beer, connected with, good quality, etc., that makes a lot of sense. Now think about ads and think about brands that you know when they use celebrities. And if the owners of the brand are smart, what they're doing is they're using a celebrity or a character from a movie or whatever that lets you associate, oh, that person stands for this, so that's what that brand stands for. It's not about what they say. We all know they get paid to say whatever they get paid to say. But what you're doing is borrowing the emotional images that you get from that person. Now, what happens is that we are totally always investing in our personality of our brand. Everything that a brand does is an investment in what that brand stands for. It's called provocation. The reason why we use advertising is to provoke an idea, to get people thinking about us. This is one of the oldest, it's not a very clear picture, I'm sorry, it's one of the oldest advertisements we know in the world. It's about 3,500 years old. It's a copper print used for making printing presses in China 3.5 years ago, and it's an ad for a needle company, you know, sewing needles. It's an actual ad, okay? We know that for history, you know, across history, mankind have used all sorts of communication to provoke people to think about things and to think about brands. Now, what happened a bit over 100 years ago, as we got more and more mass media, was there were a quick shift in terms of the way in which brands had to grab attention. If you've been living 200 years ago here in the piece of land we now call Bangladesh, where would most of you have been living? Tiny little villages. And you've probably been born and die in the same village, and you might have walked 10 kilometres from that village in your whole life. And that was the same all over the world. My family came from Ireland, and that would have been the same. My father would have been born in a village, never left it, and probably only seen 3 or 4 brands in his whole life. But you're going to see 17,000 every day. So how do we get your attention? You provoke ideas. And to do that, we started seeing, as mass production of products and their brands came about, we started doing a lot more in terms of trying to grab people's attention through things, simple things like this. Esso, oil and petrol. Suddenly we started to see, about 100 years ago, they're making ads, and what's happening in this ad? What's happening in that picture? Help me out, come on. What's happening in that picture? Two people smiling at each other. What two people smiling at each other? I mean, if this gentleman and I sit here and smile at each other, he's not even going to look at me. Yeah, it's okay, man. I'm not going to molest you. I'm just going to smile at you. Right? But if it's two guys smiling at each other, it's totally different than if it... Sorry. We've got to fix the system. Obviously my head's too big. Okay. If it's two men looking at each other and smiling, it means one thing. If it's two women looking at each other and smiling, it's something else. If it's a man smiling at a woman and she's looking really embarrassed, that means something else, right? But when it's a man and a woman smiling at each other and they're both looking into each other's eyes, what does that tell you? Maybe there might be some romance there. Maybe there might be more of a, it's not just a functional connection of, hey, I'm selling you petrol. When was the last time that any of you went to go see the guy that you buy petrol off and you give him a smile like that, you know? Normally it's like, how much? No, you don't even look at the guy, right? What is this saying? This was to grab attention and say that, Esso petrol was in some ways connecting people, or that this Esso sales guy, because the guy's an Esso salesman because he's got the cap on. Everybody at the time would have known that. It's like, hey, you can trust this guy. He's a nice guy. Look, even this lady really likes him. So the imagery was more important than the product because it was setting up what was really going on. Look at this character they developed. This is from the 1920s, 100 years ago. Why did they develop this character to sell petrol? Why? Because, first of all, I'm listening. Okay, why would you have a character saying, I'm listening? What does that mean? If you're a brand and your character is saying, I'm listening, what does that say? I will listen to your complaints. I'm open for you. I'm ready to take whatever you want to do, right? So, all of these things really matter. Now, to figure out what picture you're going to use, what words you're going to say, you have to figure out who you're talking to. So we have 100 people in this room, and my first exercise, quite simply, was just to show that even though you're all here and you're all students here, there's basically 2 types of people. And if I kept on asking questions, I could make it 4 types, 8 types, 16 types, 25 types, 100 types of people, right? Why do some people wear sandals and some people wear sneakers? Split it that way. Why do some people like to wear glasses and other people pretend they're not blind? Split it that way. Why is it that some of the guys are growing beards and some guys don't grow beards? Well, I can't, or I can. But if you all could grow beards, why do you or don't you, right? Is it because of fashion? Is it because of culture? What is it? Brands, the single most important thing a brand has to do is to figure out which people it wants to talk to and what makes those people think. What do they get emotional about? So, I want you to take out your phone again. Take out your phone and take a picture of the person next to you. Yeah, you guys up front as well. Take your phone out and take a picture of the person. Yeah, you too, please. You know, take a picture of each other. Yeah. Okay, so I'm assuming that for a lot of you, you're sitting next to somebody you know. Now, you've taken a picture of that person, and in most cases it's somebody you know. Now, if you need to get life insurance or yogurt or high quality shoes, is that the person you're going to ask advice from? Why? Probably not, right? Because, and I guarantee you, if I did a little survey, walked around the room and asked every one of you and said, you know, I know you just took a photo, is he the person you'd ask for advice for if you're going to buy yogurt? And you go, well, no, because he doesn't know anything about yogurt, right? Or he only eats really shit food or something like that, right? And if I said to you, well, is she the person that you're going to get advice on shoes from? You might turn around and say, well, actually, I don't like her shoes, you know? No offence. Who knows? Actually, you are wearing nice shoes. That's funny, yeah. But who knows, right? But here's the thing. Who are the last people, if you're running a brand, who are the last people you should ask for advice on that brand from? Do you ask the people you study with? The people you work with? The people you live with? No. They're not normal. Normal people would not be sitting in this room listening to me talk. The very definition of being a not normal person is you. Because normal people would be going, they would pay not to come and listen to me. It's like, no, most people don't want to sit there for an hour and a half and listen to some guy talking about branding. They couldn't care less. It would be punishment, right? Now, I know most of you are sitting there going, yeah, but I'm only here because they told me I had to come. But you are here, right? And you're not normal people if you've studied business, if you've studied marketing, if you then end up working in a company that does branding or marketing, you're not normal. What you have to do is to figure out who I am going to talk to. Now, like everything else in life, it's garbage in, garbage out. If you go and ask people that are the inappropriate people, if you study the wrong people, if you get advice from the wrong person, you're wasting your time. You're going to go off and do the wrong thing. What you need to do is to think about who it is that you're trying to sell to, who you're trying to make this brand attractive to, And what is it that they want? Not what your friends say they want, not what your boss says they want, but what do they really want? For example, let's go back to men's underpants. Does everybody in the room know who this guy is? Can somebody yell Ali's name? David Beckham, right? Now, I had the good fortune once to meet David Beckham. And I can honestly tell you, ladies, that in the flesh, he is, seriously, the best looking man I've ever met in my life. He is an incredibly good looking guy. Now, I didn't see him dressed like that. I actually saw him dressed in a suit. Okay? But he is an incredibly good looking guy. He's a very famous guy, right? He's was one of the most famous sports stars in the world. So, but why would an underpants company pay him, and his original contract with this company was $5 million for one ad? Why would you pay $5 million to this guy if you were selling underpants? Why would you do that? Hey, what? He's a brand in himself, yes, that's true. And what are you trying to do with him, though? So here's the thing. Okay, so here's the thing. Three things, right? Three things to remember. Yes, you're correct. You're trying to borrow his image. He's an incredibly good-looking, famous, successful guy with a great body, right? Second thing you've got to understand. Who buys men's underpants? Sorry? Who? Men. No. 70% of all men's underpants is purchased by women. Mothers, wives, girlfriends, strange women, who knows? But 70% of all underwear, men's underwear in the world, is purchased by women for their man. Whether it's their son, their lover, their boyfriend, their husband, the guy across the street, some random university student. Who knows? So why use him? Because if you understand, they did not make these ads for guys. They made these ads for women. They made these ads for women who would said, if I buy my husband these underpants, Big Fat Dave may actually look like David Beckham, at least that bit. So you have to understand what's going on. Now, of course, today you can all sit there with your mobile phone, with your phones, and you could Google all this up, okay, and you could come back to me afterwards and say, hey, you're wrong, you know, okay. But the other thing is, you can go and Google a lot of information about people. So, for example, the other day I Googled Bangladesh consumers. And on the pictures page on Google, that's the front page. And that's all meaningless. Why is it meaningless? It's a bunch of graphs, tables and numbers. That's not what I want to understand. What I want to understand is not Bangladesh consumers. I want to understand... Sorry, I've misspelt this. That should say Bangladeshi people. When I Googled Bangladeshi people, that's what comes up. Now, which one is more useful to me? Well, of course, this is more useful to me. Why? Because you do not sell products and you do not market brands to consumers. You market brands to people. To the people you want to become your consumers. Now, let me just explain this with an illustration. These guys that work with me know that I can never do a presentation without a Coke in my hand. How many people in this room drink Coca-Cola ever? Yeah, have you ever drunk Coca-Cola? Okay, now, stick your hand right up. Do you like Coca-Cola? Do you drink Coca-Cola? Right, are you a Coca-Cola fan? Okay, are you a Coca-Cola consumer? No, you're not. The only person in this room that is a Coca-Cola consumer is me. The rest of you are people who either like it from past experience or don't like it, who call yourselves fans and maybe will want to have a Coke and maybe watching me drink this one. Maybe there's a few people going in the room, wow, I wish I had one of those right now. Is anybody thinking that now? Is anybody in the room going, I wish, yeah? Come on up, you can have one. Now there's 2 Coke consumers in the room because he reacted to a branding response, right? Now, this is my message. When you go into business, when you leave university, you're not dealing with consumers. You're dealing with people that you want to become consumers. But here's the other thing. What's your name? Shishi. Right. When you've drunk that Coke, you stop being a Coke consumer. The minute you stop drinking it, you stop being a consumer. You may be one again tonight. I drink 4 or 5 of these every day. So 4 or 5 times a day, I'm a Coke consumer. But the rest of the time, I'm not. I'm a person who loves Coke, who is a fan of Coke, just like you might be somebody who hates Coke. But you're only a consumer when you're in the act of consumption. Now, what we have to do is to figure out what it is that these people want, what are they interested in, what gets them emotional. If we can figure that out, sorry, just burped, Coke response. If we can do that, then we can maybe make them Coke consumers. I learnt that from this kid. A number of years ago, we were doing research on the streets of Bangkok. I had a whole bunch of my staff going out and asking simple questionnaires. Maybe some of you have done this, where you go up to somebody and you say, hey Fayez, I want to ask you 5 questions, right? So we had all these people wandering around Bangkok from my team, just stopping people in the street saying, hey, can I ask you 5 questions? Now, one lady that worked for me was this very nice looking young Thai lady, and naturally every guy she asked said, yeah, sure, you can ask me anything you want, right? So she approached this kid. Turned out he was 17. He's walking down the street with 2 of his buddies. He's got, you can see, he's got a stud in his tongue, rings in his ears, and this lady goes, oh, excuse me, could I take 5 minutes to ask you a few questions? Yeah, sure. Great. So the first question is, as a consumer, we were wondering, no, 17-year-old kid, no, I'm not a consumer. Why is it that you people never ask me about me as a person? Why do you always ask me about as a consumer? I'm not a consumer, I'm a person. That was the most important piece of learning. I have 3 university degrees, I've worked in marketing for 30 years, but that kid taught me the most important lesson. Think about the way people think, not about the way consumers think. Because if you start thinking about that, you get to a lot more about what emotes them, what makes them think, what makes them act. You have to understand what matters to the people you want to become consumers. They're never your consumer, they're always people. For example, if I walk up to anybody in this room, I'm getting up the back so I share my love. Hi, I'm Dave. Faisal. Nice to meet you. You'll notice he didn't say, hi, I'm a consumer. Has anybody in this room ever gone to a party or ever met new people and introduced themselves as, hi, I'm a consumer? Well, of course you don't, right? And if you did, the other person would think, weird guy, right? Of course you would. So you've got to think about people as people. Think about what matters in their lives that is relevant to your product so that you can create a brand based on what they are interested in life. Think about what emotion you want to trigger and think about the way they see themselves. Don't think about demographics, because demographics don't help. For example, here's 2 very famous brands in the world. Antiseptic, soap. Easy products to make. Technology's very simple. Anybody can look up the formula. The factories to make these things are very simple to build. But here's two very famous global brands. The product itself, there's 100 different products that are just as good. But what made these famous? History, culture, social expectations. For example, Lux. Why is the signage for Lux in this font? Why is it gold? What does gold represent? Wealth, luxury, right? Look at the font. Smooth lines, even an X. X can often be, depending on your font, an X can be a symbol of nick off, go away, right? But this X looks sort of inviting. Think about Dettol. Dettol, green background. What does green mean? In most cultures, green means what? Natural, right? Safe, natural. Blue, blue sky, again, natural. Internationally, easy colours to represent. Why does it have this sword through the middle? Strong, safe, protection, right? So brands have to encompass, even in the way they use their logos, it's there's a whole bunch of reasoning as to what it is you're trying to tell people. What emotions are you trying to reach? Of course, people are always looking for shortcuts to success. So we have a whole bunch of things going on with people where they're trying to understand how they can get more attention paid to them. So I wear yellow to attract attention. I wear a flowery shirt to attract attention. Maybe I use cologne or I don't use cologne. I wear glasses or I don't wear glasses. Brands do that. Brands are all about creating feelings. A product satisfies a basic need. A brand satisfies the need for feelings. So if you think about these famous brands, Coca-Cola inspires moments of optimism and happiness. If you ever go to work for the Coca-Cola company, they tell you and tell you and tell you and tell you Coca-Cola is not a soft drink. It's not a carbonated beverage. What is Coca-Cola? Happiness in a bottle. Exactly. Think about Starbucks. It's coffee. It's not even very good coffee. But what they did was very smart, to inspire and nurture the human spirit, one person, one cup, and one neighbourhood at a time. In other words, here's a place you can sit and talk. Here's a place you can sit and think. Even if you take your Starbucks away, that's the imagery around. We're going to take advantage of the imagery of coffee as a gathering point. Think about Nike, to motivate every athlete in the world, even those people that look like me, right? Everybody's an athlete here. Did anybody watch the World Cup, the Football World Cup? Most of the guys and some of the ladies, I'm sure, did, right? And I don't know about you, but I grew up in Australia, in Sydney. So naturally we played cricket, right, as a kid. And I played a lot of football as a kid. Now every time I watch a football match, even now, every time I watch a football match, in my head, I'm imagining that my favourite club, Tottenham Hotspurs, is going to call me tomorrow and ask me to come and play for them. Are they going to call me now? Probably not, right? They're going to be pretty desperate if I'm playing for them, right? Is the Australian national team going to call me up and say, hey, we need you to come and play in the World Cup? But in my head, I'm still that little boy dreaming of playing football, dreaming of playing cricket. That's what Nike did. They understood that it's all about up here. It's got nothing to do with how strong or athletic you really are. We all want to be an athlete. We all want to be the winner. So as you decide on what you're going to do about your brand, you have to make a decision. And this stuff can be a bit useful, but this is what really matters. Don't understand, the demographics, who's rich, who's poor, who's black, who's white, who's male or female, who lives where and who lives there. That's all interesting, but what really matters is understanding the way people think. What's their personality? What values do they have? What attitudes do they have? Those are the things that will give you the guidelines to what to do. Ask yourself this: are you driven by your age group? So how many of you ever heard the term millennials? Yeah? A lot of discussion about millennials. How many of you, most of the people in this room are in the same basic age group, within about 5 years of each other, right? Are you all the same? You're Bangladeshis. You're the same age. Does everybody in this room love cricket? No, honestly, does somebody not like cricket? Thank you very much, right? Okay, does everybody love the same food? No. Does everybody love the same movie stars? No. The same music? No. Just because you are the same demographic doesn't mean that you're the same people. What we have to, as a brand, is understand the type of people we can affect, that we can target. And that usually comes from all of those sorts of attributes that I had up there. That's why no matter what category, you can see the category can be split up amongst things like luxury versus affordable, conservative versus sporty. Yes, that's numbers, that's a demographic, but sporty versus conservative, that's an imagery issue. To what some people see as sporty, other people will say not so sporty. Maybe the reason why emoji is the fastest growing language in the world. The fastest growing language in the world. I don't mean as in something people just use on Facebook. I mean actually the fastest growing language used for communication. And why is that? Because it's great for helping us actually quickly show the differences between people. Happy and sad. Interested and not interested. Positioning your brand can come based on many things. It could be functional, but very rarely. Brands are almost never successful if they're based on functionality, because what's the problem with being based around a function or functional superiority? If I say that Coke is better than Pepsi because it's got more bubbles, what happens tomorrow? Pepsi puts more bubbles in their can, right? Anything that's functional can be easily copied. Brands are never successful because of functionality, because anybody can copy the functions. But it's emotion. It's whether the perception of it is cheap, good value, expensive, luxurious. Is it about being rare or easily available? Is it about being romantic, sexual, different, the same, better, efficient? These are the things that brands get built around. They're called positionings. L'Oreal discovered a positioning 44 years ago. It's used the same positioning and the same advertising for 44 years. In that time, it's gone from the number 6 makeup and cosmetic brand in the world to number 1. It's 25% bigger than number 2. What's that positioning? My beauty expresses my confidence. It tapped into the women's revolution of the 1970s that was happening in the West, and then has progressively happened all around the world. And what it's based around is a proposition and a positioning that says, because you are worth it. Not you guys, I'm pointing to the ladies. You guys aren't worth it at all, but those ladies are. And this is the first brand, big brand, to actually say to women, no, it's because you're worth it. It's got nothing to do with what men think, etc., etc. This thing hates me, guys. Obviously my ears are too big for this thing, so we will try again. I've got it back on. All right, I'm going to keep talking. MasterCard is a credit card. There is absolutely nothing product-wise and functionality-wise that MasterCard can do that any other credit card cannot do. All credit cards, product-wise, are exactly the same. The only thing that you can do product-wise is maybe change things like the interest rates. And that involves one guy on a computer doing this for 5 minutes. And if you do it, tomorrow, all your competitors do exactly the same thing. But what MasterCard did 25 years ago was to figure out this. When you say to somebody, do you have a credit card? Yeah, I've got a credit card. Up till then, credit cards were always about people, middle class and wealthier people, being able to go anywhere they want and spend what they need. They said, no, no, no. What people really want is not the things they can buy, but the experiences they get. And what's more important than being able to buy stuff is to have those little things in life that make a big difference to us. So think about this. The first time, think about the guys in the group. I don't know, how many of you have ever gone to watch the Bangladesh national cricket team play live at a stadium? Now imagine you're a father, and the first time you take your son to see the national team play. And it costs X for the tickets, and it costs X for snacks, and it costs X maybe for a souvenir. But what's really important is, as a father, is me sharing that few hours as your son is sitting there so excited to be watching his heroes, and I'm getting to do it with him. And that's what MasterCard figured out. What people of all types want is those little moments in life that make a big difference to their life. And they said, and sure, it costs some money and we can help you take care of that, but let's focus more on the experiences more than the money. Coca-Cola, the world can be a happier place. Brands change their positioning. Has anybody ever drunk 7-Up? Yeah? So here's an interesting thing. Until 1967, 7-Up was actually sold as a hangover cure. And then they started using it as it's a mixer for whiskey. But in 1967, in America, the drinks market was dominated by Coke and Pepsi, and there wasn't much other choice. And these guys somebody at J.W. Thompson in New York was incredibly smart, and they said, look, you can have Pepsi or Coke. When you put them in the glass, they look the same. What if we sold something that was the un-cola, the opposite to cola? And we're going to do that because some people don't want to be the same as everybody else. So if everybody else is drinking cola, I'm going to be really cool and drink the un-cola. Right? Because they understood what some people wanted. Listerine. Listerine was originally a liquid you used to clean up surgeries. As a surgical antiseptic. Then it became a floor cleaner. It was actually sold in bigger bottles, and you put it in water, and that's what you mop the floor with. But again, it was repositioned because somebody figured out that actually, you know what? That people actually are worried about the way other people think about them. So let's do this. Let's think about something. Bad breath. Now here's an interesting thing. In America, in England, in Western European culture, up until about 100 years ago, bad breath wasn't a big problem. But Listerine in England, and around the same time Wrigley's in the United States, one with a liquid antiseptic and one with chewing gum, both figured out the same insight about what people want. It's not about the fact that people didn't want bad breath. People want to be attractive. They want other people to want them. And they said, well, maybe if you've got bad breath, people don't want you. Now, actually, in those cultures, it wasn't an issue. They made it an issue by understanding that the real thing was not the bad breath, but the fact that people want to be wanted. And so how do you do that? Well, you say, hey, if you've got clean breath, you're going to be more attractive. And by good advertising, good PR, they persuaded America and England to believe that you could be more attractive if you didn't have bad breath. And now it becomes a global phenomenon. Positioning can be about all sorts of things. Romance, get it coming together. Sex does sell. A lot of us in this room, the way you're dressed, are dressed because you want to look sexy. Some of you have got your haircuts that way because you want to look hot. Some of you just have bad taste in haircuts. That's okay. Positioning. There's a thing now with social media known as the kittens and puppies effect. What's that? What's the kittens and puppies effect? Connected with social media. Every single day on YouTube, around the world, there are around 180,000 new videos loaded onto YouTube every single day. Every single day, on average, one video will be launched, and within 2 weeks it will get 5 million hits. Now, we're not talking about news or politics videos, we're talking about videos you might load up. And what YouTube has figured out is that there's a much higher chance of your video getting 5 million hits if it has cute animals in it. Puppies and kittens, or polar bears. Some brands use polar bears or kittens or puppies as things just like you might use David Beckham or another celebrity, because it says something about you. It looks comfortable, it looks happy, it looks pleasing. Emotional positioning is the way in which you actually get people to pay attention to you by going to their heart. It can be anything. Big banks. 2 big banks, Citibank, HSBC. Very different positionings. They offer exactly the same services. Citibank is about financial futures, goals, getting somewhere in life. HSBC is we're about your community. We're about everyone. We're home for everybody. Their positioning is very different. They're targeting 2 different types of people. All this comes back to the one basic lesson about positioning. If you remember nothing else, remember this. That actually all brands are based on a simple choice. You can either be an inclusive brand or an exclusive brand. An inclusive brand is a brand that's basically saying, we welcome everyone. We show no bias. We feed the desire that you have to commune with everybody. Come on in, be part of our family. Then you have exclusive brands. An exclusive brand says, we invite you. Not these guys, we invite you to be special, to join a club that separates you from the mass. Now, this has got nothing to do with category or price. It applies to all categories and all price levels. It's not about availability. It's about what people want. Some of us want to be part of the big group. Some of us want to feel special. In some products and categories, we want to be part of the big group, and in other products and areas, we want to feel that we're special. As a marketer, you have to figure out how to reach those two different types of people, or those two different mental positionings. Let me try and see if I can get this to work.
In the back of my throat, I want the real taste of an icy cold Coke.
That's an old Coke ad from Australia. It's actually the first...
Can 20,000 magnets stop a bullet?
Well, it was the first big commercial that I ever worked on. Those CG, that was all real. Those idiots actually jumped out of planes riding surfboards. How stupid were they? We found the 3 most stupid Australians and said, we're going to pay you to do something nobody's ever done before. And they were stupid enough to say yes. But here's the thing. What that taught me a long time ago about Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola is a brand that is positioned about, we're good for everybody. We'll show you some extreme things, but it's a brand that's about happiness, bringing happiness to everybody. Every Australian watched that commercial and went, wow, that's cool. Wow, I love Coke. In fact, years later, that was voted the best commercial ever made in Australia in the history of advertising. Why? Because it appealed to everybody in Australia. Everybody in Australia likes to think they're surfers. Everybody likes to think about the desert and the beach, those sorts of things. But Coke has done some other amazing things. What it has done is, over the years, it's positioned itself to be the ultimate brand that's all about everybody. There's another famous commercial they made. We'll try this one. Whoops.
I'd like to buy the world a home and furnish it with love. Grow apple trees and honey bees and snow white turtle doves. I like to teach the world to sing with me. Perfect harmony, perfect harmony. I like to buy the world a Coke and keep it company. And the real I like to teach the world to sing in perfect harmony. And I'd like to buy the world a Coke and keep it company. It's the real thing. It's what the world wants today. It's the real thing. It's what the world wants today. It's the real thing.
It's the real thing. It's everything. It brings all sorts of people together. The message of Coca-Cola for 50 years now has been about being an inclusive brand, that we're for everybody. Welcome, come on into the world of Coca-Cola. It's the reason why Coca-Cola, a long time ago, was the first brand to actually do real Christmas commercials in the West. The image that we have of Santa Claus was actually designed by Coca-Cola. It's the reason why Coca-Cola, years later, became the first commercial brand in the world to do special advertising for Ramadan. It also did it for the special brand in the world to do commercial advertising for Chinese New Year. Let's see if I can show you that one. So whatever these ads were, whenever they appeared, whenever they appeared, the whole idea is that Coca-Cola will be the brand that is associated with coming together, family moments, special occasions for the family, for the group. It's all about inclusiveness. Good. Now, up until 1960s, Pepsi and Coca-Cola were the two big brands in America. Their advertising actually was very similar. Their positioning was very similar. But in the 1960s, Pepsi started to fall behind Coca-Cola in sales. Not much, but a bit. So they figured out they had to start doing something different. And so what they did was, they said, if Coca-Cola is all about this sort of, we welcome everybody, everybody's together, what can we do that's different? So what they did was, they invented a message that was called the Pepsi generation. The Pepsi generation was a message that said, you are part of the Pepsi generation. It's a generation that's all about having fun, about letting go, about don't worry about the rules. Go for it. The Pepsi generation. That's their strategy still today. Pepsi is an exclusive brand. Same price, basically the same product. One's a blue can, one's a red can. But the positioning is very different. Pepsi, obviously everybody can buy Pepsi. If you can buy a Coke, you can buy a Pepsi. Nobody's going to stop you. But the Pepsi positioning is the opposite of Coke's. It's focused on you, your generation. Forget old guys, forget young kids, forget mothers, forget all that. Just you. And then, of course, as you get older, they keep on saying, yeah, but we're still for you because you're still young at heart. You're still a teenager in here. And that's great positioning. It's worked fantastically in a lot of countries for them. It's all about things like, come alive. You're the Pepsi generation. Because what's special about young people? I don't know, I'm old, right? But what's special about people like you? Huh? Give me a hand. What's special about young people? Physical ability. F you. What else is special about young people? You want to run a 10K race today? Well, after this, you want to do a 10K run with me? No. Okay. All right. So what's special about young people? Every generation of young people believes they are different. Every new generation of teenagers and young adults thinks that, no, we're different from past generations. Now, actually, I'm sorry to tell you this, but I've been studying young people and looking at the research for the last 60 years, going back 6 decades, 6 generations of young adults. And basically, you're thinking what you think is different is exactly the same as when I was a teenager, when I was a young 20-something. And every generation basically is the same. But because you're young, you think we're different. You think, well, we've got a different way to do it. We can do it differently. Our music is different. You know, my dad can't stand my music. Well, guess what? My dad couldn't stand my music, but his dad couldn't stand his music either. Right? That's just a part of the process of being young. It's just doing things a little bit differently. But because we like to think we're different, that's why Pepsi works. Because it targets that emotional sense that, hey, I'm not normal, I'm special. The reason that all came really to life in the example built around cricket in India. In 1996, the Cricket World Cup was on in India. Now, I'm guessing a lot of you don't remember that, right? But Coca-Cola sponsored the Cricket World Cup for the first time. So they flew a lot of people from their headquarters in Atlanta in America to India to make special advertising for the Cricket World Cup. What, sorry? They sponsor a lot of things. But what I want to show you is what they did for the Cricket World Cup. Does it look good? Nicely made. Lots of red symbols standing for Coke. Lots of things, people playing cricket all over India. Was it a good ad? You know what Indian people said? That's a great ad if you're an American tourist. This is what Pepsi did. Pepsi were not the sponsors.
Officially, cricket is played in whites, at a leisurely pace. The official players are gentlemen of restraint, who have to drink the official drink. Nah. Pepsi. Nothing official about it.
Nothing official about it.
Nothing official about it. Guess what? After that World Cup, when we surveyed people across India and said, who was the sponsor of the World Cup? 70% thought it was Pepsi. And everybody under 25 in India at the time said, oh, Pepsi gets what we're about. Nothing official. We want to do it differently. We want new rules. We want new excitement. That Coke thing, yeah, that's good for my mum, right? So Coke sort of made a mistake with that, the way they presented their brand, but Pepsi were very good at presenting what they stood for at the time. The thing is that Coke and Pepsi are the classic example of an inclusive brand and an exclusive brand. The exclusive brand can be cheap, can be easily purchased, no special product. But what it's doing is saying to you, hey, if you're different, if you're special, I'm the one for you. And the inclusive brand is saying to you, hey, we're for everybody. Anybody can drink this, anybody can buy it, come on in. It depends on your personality, which one appeals to you. It works in all sort of categories. Like I said, MasterCard is an inclusive brand. It's saying everybody together, friendly, enjoy life, enjoy those little moments in life. Visa is an exclusive brand. Visa talks about for me. The language it uses, like, it's everywhere you want to be. It doesn't say it's everywhere for everybody. It says it's everywhere you want to be. So they appeal to two different mental states, two different emotional states. Banks, like I said, HSBC is an inclusive brand. It's global for everyone, personal but human. Citibank, financial futures, goals, getting somewhere. Everybody in the world understands that if I want to get somewhere, that doesn't mean everybody's going to get somewhere. It's about me. So this is a we strategy. That's a me strategy. You have to make up your mind when you own a brand which one you want to play in. Think about airlines. Qantas and Thai Airways, two big international airlines. Qantas' strategy at the moment, the last few years, is I love welcoming familiar faces back into the lounge. This is for business class, right? It's all about welcoming. Here, I welcome everybody. Here, it's, look at the eye contact. It's all about I'm your servant. I'm going to do it just for you. What she's going to do, don't know. Every major brand in the world, when you do a very quick analysis, you'll figure out whether it's inclusive or exclusive. It doesn't take a genius to figure it out once it's done, but it does take some genius before it's done to figure out which one you're going to be and how you're going to say things so you separate yourself from your competitor. So, for example, how do we think differently about things? A number of years ago, I got asked by Nestle to do a project developing new campaigns for baby milk powder products. When they asked us to make the ads for that, we said, okay, who's the target? And they said, the target is good mothers. Good mothers. And I said, what's a good mother? And they said, well, you know, good mothers. I said, yeah, but what do you mean by a good mother? And they said, well, you know, all mothers are good. Are all mothers good? Are all mothers good? Huh? No. Of course not. Some mothers beat their kids. Some mothers don't pay much attention to their kids. Some mothers send their kids off and abandon them. That's the extreme, right? But just like everything else in life, most mothers are good. But how are they good? So we did some research. We did it first in Thailand and then did it in some other countries around Asia. What we were looking for was definitions of a good mother. We asked thousands of mothers to tell us what they thought a good mother was. We ended up with these three definitions. Three definitions. There was the sacrificer. A sacrificer is a mother who believes that no matter what else, it's her job to sacrifice herself for her children. In extreme cases, I'll starve to make sure they eat. I'll go without new shoes if I can buy better school books for my kids. It's all about my sacrifice. But there was a whole lot of women that said, no. Good mothers are the follower or the planner. The planner was a good mother because the planner is a mother who plans everything, who does the research, who reads the back of the packs, who plans out everything, like what her kid is going to be. Her kid's just been born and I'm already planning, like they're going to go to this university, they're going to study this, and to get there we're going to do this and this and this and this and this. And as I said, there was the follower. The follower was the mother who was a good mother because she did what other mothers did. She did what other mothers did. Well, what does that mean? Well, it means, for example, I go to the shops to buy some stuff for my family, some food, whatever, and as I'm walking around the shop with my bag and I'm putting the things there, what I'm doing is I'm also buying the products that I see the other mothers are buying. And why do I do that? Because I don't want the other mothers laughing at me. If they're all buying this product and I buy that product, they might think I'm a bad mother. So I'll keep on buying this product. Now, we got these three definitions by asking thousands of mothers. Thanks. By asking thousands of mothers what they thought the definition of a good mother was. These were the three main answers. Then we asked them to vote. We asked thousands of mothers, first in Thailand and then in places like Malaysia and the Philippines, Hong Kong, to vote. Now, which one of those do you think was the most popular answer? Huh? When we asked them to vote, which one do you want to be? The number one answer was this. Overwhelmingly. But when we said, now we want you to tell us which one are you, 80% said this. They knew they would like to be this, but they needed to be this. It was too hard to be that. It was really hard to be that. That's the easy one. So when we positioned our brand, we had to think about, are we going to go for what people want to be or what they think they need to be? Two different things, right? Two different sets of mothers. If we did this, we were going to use an exclusive strategy. Hey, you're smart. You're a sacrificer. You're making such a big effort. You're a saint. Everybody should build statues for you. You're such a great mother. If we did this, it's exclusive. Hey, you're a genius. All that work, all that planning, all that studying, congratulations. But if we use this as the target group, it's inclusive. Hey, it's okay. 90% of all others buy this product, this brand, you should buy it too. Hey, you know what? Good mothers buy this brand. If you don't buy this brand, you suck as a mum. Right? So that's how you figure it out. Now you do it, it's hard work because you've got to do some research, you've got to do thinking. Brands of all sorts are like this. I'm sure some of you know this brand, Alan Solly, right? It's an exclusive brand. Not because it's that expensive, but because of the positioning. Think about taglines that say things like, who says I have to like things the way they are? What doesn't look good to me, I change. It's exclusive. It's all about me. I'm doing this to look the way I want to look. I'm going to change my personality using these clothes to make me look good. Benetton, remember Benetton at the beginning? This is the sort of ads they run all the time. They purposely always run ads with different nationalities, different looks and feels. It's about, come on in. Benetton is a brand for the world. Black, white, doesn't matter. What religion, whatever. Come on in. What about these two brands? Which is inclusive, which is exclusive? Huh? Exclusive. Huh? Yeah, but what is it? Inclusive, exclusive? Yeah, it's exclusive. Tupperware is all about, and has been since Tupperware was invented in the 1950s, it's always about the special mother, the special housewife. The special housewife has the right gear. Tupperware is the right gear. Tupperware was built on a really smart marketing strategy called Tupperware parties in 1950s America. Right? You have these little parties, you hire this fine young woman, you go to her house and you say, if we can hold a party in your house, we'll give you free product. She invites all her friends around, and we explain that, you know, if you're a better housewife, you use Tupperware. If you're a better housewife. And because you're sitting there in a circle with 5, 6 of your friends and neighbours, and we say, you know, if you want to be a better housewife, you use this. All of you ladies all buy it. Because you're not going to be the one that sends a, well, I'm not a good housewife. I suck. I don't want to do it. Everybody bought it, right? It was all, but even though they sold it to everybody, the targeting was all about being about, are you a good housewife? Are you doing the best job? Could you be better? Buy Tupperware. As opposed to a brand that reaches out to all sorts of people and has all sorts of plastic solutions, and some of them might look more expensive and whatever than others, but it's a brand that's all about, hey, we can make everybody's home feel better. We can make everybody's home a little bit more comfortable. Different positioning. The first decision for any brand owner, there's no bad answer. But what makes you decide those people you want to consume your brand really want? What do those people really want is the single most important thing. And ultimately, in your category, for the type of products you're selling under your brand, you've either got to make a decision. Are you targeting people that are feeling inclusive or exclusive? Exclusive, people that said, hey, I want to do something important, I want to be special. Inclusive, people that say, hey, I want to share with others, whatever it might be. Most important lesson though is think about people. Don't think about them as consumers. Think about people, what they want, the way they react emotionally. Thank you very much. That's what we do. Anybody got any questions? Questions, jokes? Sports stories? Nothing? Nobody's got a single question. Nobody. Yes, sir. Can you what? Can I get the visiting card off you? Yes, you can get a card off me, yes. Yeah. That's not really a question, I meant, but yeah, okay, fine. What else? Sir? No, everything. Exclusive. Pepsi's an exclusive brand. Apple. Apple is an exclusive brand. Okay?
Yes, sir.
It's got nothing to do with the size of the category. It's not about niche. It's about the target group you want to reach. What their mentality is.
Yes, sir.
Okay?
I got it, sir.
Anything else?
No, sir.
Oh, so they gave you the mic too late. Okay. Anybody else? Come on, somebody else ask me a question. Please. Just one. There is no, the question is which would be the best. There is no best. It's a bit like saying red and blue. Which one is better? Right? I'm sure you have a favourite colour. What's your favourite colour? Blue is your favourite colour. What's your favourite colour? Black. Black's officially not a colour, but that's okay. But I get what you mean. What's your favourite colour? Obviously red, right? All three of you are correct. There is no better or worse. They're just different. What you have to decide is, first of all, how do you make a decision about your positioning? You make a decision based on one of three major judgments. first of all, what do people really want? Secondly, what would they buy if they weren't buying you? Okay, so let's take Coke and Pepsi as an example. I know in Bangladesh, Coca-Cola is much more successful than Pepsi, right? I live in Thailand where Pepsi's number one, Coke's number two, okay? Now in Thailand, distribution is about the same. So you can make a choice every day. Every time you go to buy a drink, you can have a Pepsi or a Coke. Why do people pick Pepsi? Because Pepsi years ago did the right sort of messaging to young Thais about the fact that, hey, in a country that was okay but not great, where it's a bit of a struggle, you got to do, you're important. You're important. Oh, okay. I like that idea. I'm important. The way you adjust and make a decision is based on the way in which people are reacting in the market. But if you have a really strong competitor, MasterCard was losing and losing and losing to Visa. Visa was quite obviously an exclusive brand. So MasterCard went out looking for an inclusive strategy so they could be different. Because the products were so similar, they were losing and losing, and they couldn't create a new product. In the credit card business, it's impossible. You have to find a positioning that makes you stand out. That's when you make a choice. Anybody else? You want a free Pepsi? Yeah, you can have a free Pepsi. Put your hand up. There you go. Yeah, I know, but you can ask a question too. Mike.
If it's possible for a brand to pursue both like inclusive and exclusive branding?
No. No. You can, a lot of brands will do subtle things, right? A lot of brands don't openly come out and say, I'm exclusive or I'm inclusive, but you can't be both. It's a bit like saying you can't be blue or red. You've got to be one or the other. Okay? You've got to make a decision, and what you then do is, but you can be mass or you can be niche. It's up to you. It's how you use that strategy. But first of all, you've got to decide what my brand is going to stand for. And that's where you make, this is a tool to help you do that. Anybody else?
Thank you, sir.
Sorry? You got a question. Coke or Pepsi? Pepsi diet. All right, let me just make a little thing. So I worked on the Coca-Cola business for 25 years, making their ads all over Asia. Let me just fill you in on something. Why do you drink diet?
Actually, I don't drink any of the cold drinks because it has sugars, lots of calories.
Yeah,
It's bad for health.
but you realise that that one is actually worse for you than Pepsi. Diet drinks are the worst possible drinks, are most unhealthy on the planet. This is much healthier than this. It's made from real sugar. This is made from God knows what.
All right, so let's just keep it.
Yeah, a few more, just a couple more.
For a showpiece or something, like
Yeah.
it's a gift, so thank you. Okay, my question is...
Give it to your worst enemy, yes. Okay, yeah.
So my question is...
Mike, yeah.
What should I do?
Yeah, Mike.
Okay, Mike, on Mike, okay. Tell us one important thing. What is most important for branding any of products, anything? What can be the first important thing we can consider?
The most important thing in branding is understand what people want. That's the ultimate thing that makes successful brands successful. If you can go online and you can read all the stuff about Steve Jobs at Apple and about all these famous guys that have created great brands, right? Now or in the past. But the one thing they all had in common was they understood what people wanted and found a way to take a Me Too product. Apple. There has never been an Apple product made that was superior technology to its competitors. They are Me Too technology. In fact, most Apple products are actually technology developed by other companies, usually Japanese companies, that they license and then they repackage it. What they figured out was what matters to people is the packaging of technology, not the guts. You tell them the guts are good. They learnt that from the motor car industry. Motor cars have been manufactured for over 100 years. Very early on in the motor car industry, they figured out that actually 99.9% of people that buy a car can't really tell how it works. Can't really tell whether it's a great car or not, but I like the look of it. You buy cars by what they look like. You buy computers by Apple computers because they look nicer. Apple phones look nicer. Right? So you're appealing exclusive to people who put that impression more important than what it really does.
So is the product what we choose? I mean, what people need the most. But my question is, like, I need clothes. You also need clothes. Everyone needs clothes.
Yeah.
But there is still the existing brands and existing RMG sectors. So what can make me different than the others?
By understanding what people... Look, Nike, Adidas, okay? Put everything aside. Most of us, if we put on a pair of Nike shoes or a pair of Adidas shoes, realistically, we can't really tell the difference. Okay? The difference comes in the colour, maybe the design, but really the difference is by the image we've got in our heads. We have this image of Nike of being what? It's the brand that actually understands what people really are about. It's the brand that understands this thing about everybody wants to be a sportsman inside. It's a brand that understands what's cool by having it being attached to the right cool sports people, etc., etc. So it's worked very hard at doing that. Adidas, in some categories, if you play football, you buy Adidas. You don't buy Nike, right? If you play basketball, you buy Nike, you don't buy Adidas. Because they build up this image and these associations. But the truth is, what they've really done is two different brands, is target two different things. Nike is targeting the sports person wannabe in everybody. Adidas is targeting real sports people in real sports. They're more about, hey, if you want to be a football player, you should wear Adidas because that's what good football players wear. Nike's not really about that. Nike's about in here. Adidas is more about the up there. So that's what it's about. I got one more question in me. All right, Coke or Pepsi? Coke, good man. Okay. This is called unbiased sampling. Haha. Yeah, go on.
So we all know Uber here, right? And we are from Pathao. So Uber is an exclusive brand because we can figure it out from your Uber is arriving now. They're using this year. So my question is, if Pathao becomes an inclusive brand, would it help them more since there's a competition?
Yeah, it could do. I mean, I don't know really about your business. I'll be glad to talk to you about it, right? Yeah. But the reality of it is that Uber, you're correct. Uber position itself on face value, it comes across as an inclusive brand. But actually what's happened is in a lot of countries, it's ended up becoming exclusive because it goes against the norm, right? Because the whole business structure is about a certain amount of selfishness. You become a Uber driver, right? It's about that closed community. Other brands are trying to change that, like Grab in Southeast Asia have tried to change that a little bit, right? But the politics of that is very different. But yeah, but you know, it's a way to position yourself. So that's what I meant by sometimes when you've got a big competitor, you try to find what you can do with the opposite. But you've got to find out what people want. Do people really care that much, right? That they're going to shift that way. We can talk about that later. All right, guys, I've been told we have to finish up, so thank you very much.
Mr. Dave McCaughan, for the great insights and imparting valuable knowledge with the audience. As a token of appreciation for Mr. Dave McCaughan, valuable contribution, may I call upon Honorable Professor H.M. Jahirul Haq, Vice Chancellor of Ulab, to kindly present a memento to the guest speaker. here we end our session. Thank you everyone for participating in the session. Students are kindly requested to collect snacks from the outside of the auditorium. Honorable guests are requested to proceed to the conference room. Oh, yeah, and your cell phone, yes.